Hi, Zacharizer here, and welcome back to another Bass Effects review video. As you heard at the beginning, today I am going to be getting into the unmistakably confusing, captivating, and just strange world of PLL circuits. Specifically today, I'm going to be focusing on Broughton Audio's version of a PLL or phase-locked looped synthesizer pedal. Unusually so in this video, I'm not going to be doing a lot of explaining. The pedal has 10 knobs, 3 switches, and 2 rotary selectors. And to be completely honest, I don't really know what half of the knobs are doing half of the time, which is kind of part of the fun of a PLL circuit. Really quickly, here's my bass's dry tone, but honestly, we're never going to hear this tone for the rest of the video. Dingwall ABZ 6-string on the neck pickup. All right. So let's jump into some of the easier parts to understand of the PLL circuit. To first order, it's basically a square wave fuzz, a super saturated square wave fuzz. And in the bottom right of the pedal, we have 3 knobs, one representing the volume of the square wave, one representing the volume of the multiplier signal, and one representing the volume of the divider signal. I'm going to leave the multiplier and divider down for a second and just use the square wave circuit. So 2 controls that affect the square wave signal are the preamp and the trigger on the Broughton PLL. Preamp is your amount of gain. Trigger is essentially how gated or controlled or tight your fuzz signal is. So with the pedal as shown, this is the kind of signal I'm getting. Leaving the preamp where it is with the trigger in the middle now, I get a more open, less controlled square wave tone. I'm going to move away from the square wave signal, leaving the preamp and trigger at where they're at because this is where I get the most control for the crazier parts of the signal. Awesome square wave fuzz tones to be had here, but that's not really the focus of a PLL, so I'm not going to get into just those much more than I did right now. Moving on to the multiply and divide part of the circuit. This is where things really start to get cool. Multiplier is going to take your signal and multiply it, giving you different harmonic ratios running up the harmonic series. So if I was playing an open G, it's going to go up these pitches, which I'll show you here right now. So if I click through the rotary position on the multiplier knob while holding down a G, you're going to hear essentially those same harmonic series that I just played for you a second ago with some odd PLL artifacts in there. So the divide circuit is interesting. It's essentially the inverse of the multiplier. So you can kind of think of like the subharmonic series, if you will, and going down a frequency. So I'm going to hold a higher G here and show you what that sounds like. So just the divide signal. Gets all the way down into the clicks. So that is about as far as I'm going to go into the explanations of the controls. I will link to Broughton Audio's website in terms of where they go through a more thorough description of what all these knobs actually do. But to be completely honest, when you get this pedal, you're just going to have to experiment. That's the way most PLL circuits are. You really just have to dig in. I would take pictures when you find cool settings that you like, because sometimes it's hard to remember how you got the setting that you have. It's somewhat of an uncontrollable beast. So before getting into the crazy moments of the pedal, I want to just play with the multipliers and the divider and the square wave, because those alone give you just really rich kind of analog synthesizer sounding, almost hard sync synthesizer tones. Settings as shown, essentially just a square wave fuzz with a fifth added in there from the multiplier. This setting, very reminiscent yet again of kind of that hard synced oscillator sound. So this is an octave down and an octave up with that unison signal in there, so kind of a 3-octave sound. Let's hear a little bit of that same sound, but with some analog delay from my Moog MF104. Another harmonizer setting, this is an octave plus a fifth down, and then an octave plus a fifth up in my unison signal. Same sound, except running into a filter on my Iron Ether Xerograph Deluxe into a big hall reverb on my Eventide H9. So far I've been showing some very tame sounds, if you can believe it, on the Broughton PLL. It's time to bring in some of the craziness. And we're going to do that by finally touching these top three knobs and this little loop switch down here. So as shown, I'm getting this pretty standard kind of octave sound I've been playing with. Let's take the loop switch and move it out of the middle and to the right. And hopefully you can see that the PLL kind of has a mind of its own. Even when I let go of the bass, it's got to finish doing its thing before it stops. So if I play a note and I stop, an even more extreme example of the internal brain of the PLL is if we take that loop switch and we click it to the left. And then it's just, at these settings, uncontrollable. So hopefully you can see with just the tiny toggle of the loop speed, you have a pretty wide palette of craziness that gets brought in to your signal. So I went back to the middle position here, which is kind of my standard sound. Standard for the PLL. And now let's start playing with the three knobs at the top. I'm not even going to explain it. I'm just going to find some settings I like and show you some examples. Settings as shown, the response knob is going to control kind of a vibrato effect. Settings as shown here gives me kind of a controlled glissando effect, running into a little bit of that analog delay again on my Moog. Same exact settings, I clicked the loop speed to the right. Same settings, but running into a big black hole reverb just for some fun. So hopefully you're kind of getting an idea that this is probably not a pedal for everybody. But if you like to find some interesting and unique sounds, the PLL is the pedal for you. And if you spend some time with it, it's actually very musical. You just have to find those sweet little hidden gems inside the pedal, because there's a lot of crazy sounds, but there's a lot of very cool musical sounds. Here's an example that I kind of dig. So this is loop speed on the left, which is usually kind of on the crazy side, but the way that I've kind of tamed it with the top 3 knobs here, it gives me this slow, almost phaser sound going in the background, but really it's kind of like the hard sync of the oscillators is drifting in pitch a little bit. Going a bit more to where the PLL truly lives, I think, the crazy side of things, settings as shown. Let's hear a little bit of that. Very similar settings, except I've ever so slightly tamed the PLL a little bit with this loop track knob up here, and then I'm going to run this into that big black hole reverb on my Eventide H9. Loop speed to the right, another one of those kind of phaser-like or phase shifting-like sounds with some of that crazy glissando stuff built in. With these kind of crazier glissando-like sounds, I really like using low-pass filters because it kind of allows me to shape some of the craziness that fills in when I'm not playing. So a little bit of the same sound here, but with my Iron Ether Xerograph Deluxe low-pass filter. So with the crazier glissando, wacky sounds that I've been showing, I haven't really been touching these 2 dials because I don't really feel like they have that drastic of an impact on the effect. It's so crazy, it's hard to tell what pitches are being set for the harmonizer. But I want to show that a little bit. So here's kind of a wacky sound with these particular multiplier settings. Helps with my basses on. And now let's change some of these multiplier and divide settings a little bit here. So as you can see, there's plenty of insanity to be had inside the PLL, and as I said, it's somewhat of it's a living beast that you have to find a way to tame. But it really does reward when you spend some time twiddling some knobs. So one last sound for you here. This is just a really rich, fat, harmonized sound with a little bit of some of that crazy glissando stuff. Let's hear it by itself first. Same big harmonizer sound, but running into a volume pedal and then to a lot of reverb on the Eventide H9. And then, as always, just because I can, let's take this big harmonized sound from the PLL and let's run it into another harmonizer, my other Eventide H9, into that big reverb. I hope that you enjoyed some of the sounds in this video. I don't expect that most of my viewers enjoyed all of the sounds in this video, but that's kind of what the PLL is all about. It's meant to be abrasive, in your face, a little bit insane, but as I've said many times, if you spend the time, there are some real musical gems to be found inside of the Broughton PLL. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe below. It really does help me out. I will be back very soon with more pedals and effects, tips and tricks videos, along with some performance videos. So thank you so much for watching. Bye.